boy that builds the boat, and I's the boy that sails her, and I's the boy that catches the fish and brings them home to Liza. Hip your partner Sally Thibault, hip your partner Sally Brown, Fogle, Twillingly, Horton's Harbour, all around the circle. Salts and rinds to cover your flake, cake and tea for supper, cod fishing in the spring of the year, fried in maggoty butter.
We start our epic journey by a long drive from Hamilton to Lévis, Quebec. We drive the next day all the way to the outskirts of Halifax. We then go to Truro to see the tidal bore, and then after the Truro area, we head to North Sydney, where we get the ferry to Port aux Basques, and then we drive all the way to Rocky Harbour. After Rocky Harbour, we head all the way north to L'Anse Meadows and St. Anthony. Then we reverse our course and stop at St. Barbe and take the ferry to Sablon Blanc in Quebec. And from there, we quickly drive over the border into Labrador all the way to Red Bay. We reverse our tracks and take the ferry back to Newfoundland and head back down to Rocky Harbour. We head to the Twillingate area, and then from Twillingate, we head to Bears Cove, just south of St. John's. Then it's up to St. John's to see the capital, and then back to Bears Cove for a wonderful boat trip. From Bears Cove, we head to Cape St. Mary's, and then we travel all the way back across Newfoundland, stop in Corner Brook, and then head down to Port aux Basques to catch the ferry back to North Sydney. Landing in North Sydney, we head to Ingonish, bed down overnight, and then do the Cabot Trail the next day, and then head all the way to PEI, crossing their famous bridge. We have arrived in Halifax after 2 days driving, and we're happy about that. Would you believe?
So this is where you find out what your alternative is. They're just plain still will never get over their first taste of Canada. And it's in every story today. And my favorite thing is you try to sneak in.
Well, here I am nearly 100 years later in a colonist car. Hi, Dad. Bank Towers, will you believe? Scotiabank, TD, CIBC, RBC, BMO. Nothing quenches like an island red beer in Nova Scotia. Go for it.
And kind of this area, South Maitland, used to be a huge shipbuilding community. That wave will dissipate, but it'll still look like it's there
See?
now crossing the Canso Causeway to Cape Breton. Here we are at the LABRADOR lookout. Okay, we're going to be boarding the boat, one of them. That's likely the ferry that takes us to Newfoundland. Well, it's 9:11 p.m. and we're in a lineup for the ferry. We have arrived in Rocky Harbor at the Hilltop Inn, and we're very happy about that. Bed and breakfast. There is the view. Hello, Newfoundland. We're about 4 miles from Norris Point, but it's taken us 2 hours to get here. What she's looking at: Serpentine Loop, 300 meters back to parking lot, or Tablelands.
This is the tablelands, and the glaciers crawled out these fjords and valleys and left exposed part of the mantle of the earth. And I think it's the only place in the world where you can actually walk on what was mantle.
Western Brook Pond. Okay, Patricia, you seem to be well covered and...
I'm going to change this.
How's it going so far, honey?
Oh, beautiful. Wow. It's wonderful.
I's the boy that builds the boat, and I's the boy that sails her, and I's the boy that catches the fish and brings them home to Liza. Hip your partner Sally T-Bow, hip your partner Sally Brown, Fogo Twilling, Horton's Harbour, all around the circle. Salts and rinds to cover your flake, cake and tea for supper, cod fishing in the spring of the year, fried in maggoty butter. Hip your partner Sally T-Bow, hip your partner Sally Brown, Fogo Twilling, Horton's Harbour, all around the circle. I don't want your maggoty fish, they're no good for winter. Well, I can buy as good as that way down in Bonavista. Hip your partner Sally T-Bow, hip your partner Sally Brown, Fogo Twilling, Horton's Harbour, all around the circle. I took Liza to a dance as fast as she could travel, and every step that she could take was up to her knees in gravel. partner Sally Thibault, hip your partner Sally Brown, folk with Twilling Importance Harbour all around the circle. Susan White, she's out of sight, her petticoat wants a border, and well, oh, some Oliver in the dark, he kissed her in the corner. Hip your partner Sally Thibault, hip your partner Sally Brown, folk with Twilling Importance Harbour all around the circle. I's the boy that builds the boat, and I's the boy that sails her, and I's the boy that catches the fish and brings it home to Liza. Hip your partner Sally Thibault, hip your partner Sally Brown, folk with Twilling Importance Harbour all around the circle.
Well, better than a sailor, because you see what happened to the ship. Newfoundland dandelions.
So we're walking around Berry Hill Pond, a 2-kilometer walk, and we're really impressed by the bush and the shape of the trees. Look at some of these. Look how thick the bush is. Much more thick than the Amazon.
Yeah, just look. Imagine trying to walk through there. Bog.
It's just wild.
And there is part of Berry Hill Pond. Mosses. Fiddleheads. Yummy. That seems to be a lodge house for beavers. Methinks that's where the beavers were working. All right, anyone who knows me, I always video toilets. That's very important, especially as a senior. And I have a very nice washroom, fantastic, look at that. We eat and have the laptop and so on, and there's our wonderful bed. Fantastic. There's the remainder of the room. So you can see, I've certainly moved up a notch. Of course, I'm paying for it, but this room is $90 plus tax a night. So I've loosened up in my old age. We're driving north to Lance Meadow, and this is what the towns look like on the way. Thrombolites, over 600 million years old. We are in Dark Tickle, not too far from the Viking Lanso Meadow. We have arrived.
500 years before Columbus landed in North America, they came. But they were not alone. Why are we so fascinated with Vikings? Is it their bad boy image of being Europe's marauders and pillagers? Or is it their distinctive boats whose fierce dragon prows sent chills into their victims' hearts? Or is it the epic tales of their legendary seamanship as they explored the vast regions of the North and became the first known Europeans to set foot on North American soil that makes them so appealing? Scandinavian men only became Vikings when they went raiding, and women could never be Vikings. Men and women from Scandinavia were simply known as Norse people, a term which obviously doesn't sound quite as colorful as Vikings, and that's why the word is so often misused. Modern humans evolved in Africa approximately 200,000 to 150,000 years ago. A small group left Africa and began to spread out around the world 100,000 years ago. Heading north, some turned left and others went right. They reached North America over 14,000 years ago, crossing by land and by sea. Over thousands and thousands of years, the descendants of these early African travelers populated the earth. By around the year 1000, the world had almost been completely encircled by humankind. But the vastness of the Atlantic Ocean separated the final connection between East and West. The Norse sailed these strong and nimble ships with shallow drafts to Europe, Russia, and the Middle East, and westward to Iceland and Greenland, establishing new trade routes and settlements along the way. According to the Norse sagas, the first landmass Leif sighted was a great slab of rock, which he named Helluland, meaning land of flat stones. Next, he came upon a place that was wooded, with white sandy beaches that seemed to stretch on forever. It was so striking that Leif named it Furthestrandir, meaning wonder beaches. And he named the area Markland, meaning land of forests, which we know as Labrador today. Then onward he sailed to the area that today we know as lots of meadows. One, that the Norse were exploring for resources that were not readily available in Greenland. Two, that Vinland included regions much further than just their Lanso Meadows base camp. And three, during their excursions north into Markland and further south into Vinland, they were bound to meet up with the locals. For the Aboriginal peoples and for the Norse themselves, this was an opportunity to do what both groups greatly valued, a chance to do a little trading. The Norse were interested in trading for furs, while the Aboriginal people desired the Norse's iron weapons, which they would not trade. But instead, according to the sagas, they offered such items as red cloth and milk. World Heritage sites, such as Lanso Meadows, belong to all of us. They are irreplaceable landmarks of humanity's journey. The short time the Norse were here symbolizes the completion of human migration around the world. By crossing the Atlantic to North America and encountering Aboriginal people, the Norse completed the circle begun when humans first left Africa 100,000 years ago.
You don't know what will happen if you fool with the gods.
Onion, could they grow it themselves here?
Yes.
Could grow it here.
You
Hard
could
to
grow it
believe,
here.
but
Churn over there, yeah.
oh, I just was talking to you. Remember they said they had milk?
Yeah. That's an interesting weaving, a loom or some sort.
It's a loom.
Wooden shield.
Two weeks' work for 1 kilo. So the idea of helmets and swords and shields, not so much.
Yeah.
It's going to be more readily available in Scandinavia, but in Iceland, Greenland, and here, even less. The quality of the iron here is good enough for nails, and really nothing else. And that is the most important thing, is nails. Because no nail, you got it, no nails, no boat, no gold. So you have gold currency bars today. 1,000 years ago, you get iron currency bars.
Yeah, folks, that is sod. We're a little chilly, but we are walking our way back. There's Patricia chewing on her peanut butter and dark rye bread sandwich. And there is the ferry where we're going to Labrador. There's an iceberg as we cross the Strait of Belle Isle. And there's Patricia over there. There she blows. Well, what did you think of that, sweetheart?
Oh, it's iceberg's really big. I'm wobbling.
Quebec ahead. So here's our bedroom in a nice B&B.
Basically all they were doing was cooking.
And there wasn't anything left over, the fat melted.
The fat shrunk. It didn't disappear completely.
.1/20th scale model of a Basque whaling ship. Barrels to hold the whale oil. Heading back to Sablon Blanc, or Blanc Sablon, I keep forgetting which. The big land. This is the Labrador Coastal Road. What you hear are potholes. And there's a lot of them. Yeah, you get the idea. Most abundant bird in Labrador Bay is the Atlantic puffin. Those are puffins. Back to Newfoundland. Goodbye, Labrador and Quebec. Newfoundland, ahoy.
If we meet again, if we don't, happy travels, bye adios.
The Muggies Motel, outside of Twillingate. Boyd's Cove. Yeah, we're at the end of Twillingate Island, and this is probably Lighthouse Point or Crow's Nest. Tabular, blocky, wedge, and dome. is, Bear Cove's Inn, Witless Bay. That is a waste container. How do you like that? And mummers. Unfortunately, not a real polar bear. And there we are. And there's my sweetie online. There's Patricia. We are in Witless Bay.
Cape St. Mary's is at the southwestern tip of Newfoundland's Avalon Peninsula and is washed on three sides by the North Atlantic. The Cape is about 200 kilometers from the provincial capital of St. John's.
Those raindrops, yeah.
For sheep.
The Great Auk. Northern Gannet. Looks like the American eagle. The Great Cormorant. To the left is the common murre, the willow ptarmigan on the right. Wingspan of the gannet can be about 5 feet, and that's the gannet on the left and the wild patricia on the right. Here's the wingspan. Pretty big.
It builds no nest, but lays a single tapered egg that, when disturbed, rolls in a circle, reducing its chance of falling off the ledge.
Cape St. Mary's. Can't see much, but that's it. There's Signal Hill. There's the Geo Center we just visited. Your dad would love the ham radio set there. That's why Newfoundland is known as the Rock. And there is a view of St. John's, would you believe? My friends, is a giant squid that just extends all the way down there. Much better view of St. John's. Still cloudy on top.
If you want a picture of an iceberg right on the bow, you got it. This was brought to you by your great friends at Greenland. It's part of the Greenland ice cap that flows off every single year. It takes 2 to 5 years for an average iceberg to get here. This is about 10 to 20,000 year old piece of ice. This is a very exciting season for us because we have an iceberg right here, right alongside of us. So as icebergs go, this is a growler. A growler means it's not that big to be classified as an iceberg, but it's big enough that it can do damage to all kinds of medium, actually any size vessel.
Thank you, Captain Joe. Welcome aboard, everybody. I'm going to go upstairs and say hello to everybody up there. Hip your partner, Sally Neville. Hip your partner, Sally Brown. Oh, but 28 more plus Arbor rolling around. little small seagulls and the clifting ledges. Those are black-legged kittiwake. Those are the smallest of the seagull family. I'm sitting on that's a seagull. There's about 40,000 common birds sitting on that rock. Looking at the kittiwakes are even going off. So there's 100,000 puffin live here. The one that's flapping his wings right there now. That's one of them there. We got one to the left of him. That's his partner. There's before we leave the island because the conditions will get a little bit magnified in a second. Birds will find the best protection are the ones that are most successful. Pay attention, I have over here in my hand a bottle of Newfoundland Screech. Newfoundland Screech, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is demerara rum that comes from the island of Jamaica. Now it gets its name Screech from the effect it has upon you when you consume it. And I urge you all to have a little smell of that now. Nice way to clean out your nose, I can tell you that. What gives you a screecher name? I am a screecher. Dita is Bealcock. 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 My old cock. May long may your big tip drop. May long you be made. May long may your big tip drop. May long you be big tip drop. Over the lips or over the gums. Don't stop, don't stop. Keep drink. It's so hard to get the pound bacteria. Especially Sticksville. You ready? You get it. Here you go. You ready? To carry me, love me, feel very when the very back. I'm gonna marry Mary from the Mary said to carry me, love me, feel very when the very back. She's a neat little lass, has a lot of class, she has a lot of gas, and her father thinks I'm brass, and I'd be a silly as to let the matter pass. Father said she's so she really fairly. Mary and her mother go an awful lot together. In fact, you'd hardly ever see them one of the other, and people wonder whether it's Mary and her mother were the both of them together and them quarter. Oh, Mary Mac's father make a Mary Mac marry me. My father's making me. I'm gonna marry Mary from the Mary should take care of me. We love you, feel a Mary when I marry Mary Mac.
Waiting for the ferry back to Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia, Cabot Trail, here we come. We are now in Nova Scotia and on Cape Breton, and we're waiting for the English Town ferry. That should save us some mileage. Here's my most reliable GPS. And we're on the ferry. Here's our nice motel room in Ingonish. Tricia loves the rocks.
Le bateau? Tu vois le bateau? Well, I think we'll see you at the next lookout. Is it?
Let's look for those whales. your different types of rock. Igneous, sedimentary, and garnet phyllite or phyllite, which is a metamorphic rock. Now this is exciting, folks. I've never been across the PEI Bridge. The PEI Bridge wasn't here when I was here last. There she blows. PEI. We have arrived in PEI. Yeah, we're at Founders Hall, where the Fathers of Confederation declared Canada a country. News, they closed it down. And now we're at Charlottetown's beautiful waterfront. And that might be it.
It's been a great trip to Eastern Canada, and we've seen some wonderful things. And I feel I know Canada a little bit better.
Bye!
Bye.